What's going on, guys? Andrew Hayes here, back with another review, and today I'm reviewing Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which is directed by J.A. Bayona and stars Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, returning from the first one, and is about a volcano erupting on the island where the dinosaurs are kept, and Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard must go back to the island to save the dinosaurs so they don't become extinct. Now, I wasn't excited for this movie in the slightest. I mean, I love the original. I mean, that's just a masterpiece. It's a classic. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't like the second and the third one. Those just aren't good movies and try to be something that they're not. Jurassic World, however, it's fine. There's a lot of fun to be had with it, despite its flaws, but it's ultimately a fine movie. However, I was not excited for this movie. I just didn't like the idea of it. The trailers didn't impress me. And ultimately, the only reason I went to go see it was because my mom really wanted to go see it. Anyway, I saw it, and now I have a review. But, yeah, I didn't like this movie. This movie is pretty bad. I would say it's the worst one since Jurassic Park 3. It's the only one the Jurassic Park 3 is the only one that's worse than this, and it's kind of saying a lot. But there are some positives that I have with this movie. I'll go over those real quick. I liked Chris Pratt in this movie. I thought he gave a good performance, and I do like his character of Owen. I think his character is really the only one that you kind of root for, and only likable one. That's about it. That's pretty much the only real positive I had with this movie. This movie just fails on pretty much all fronts. I mean, there are some entertaining moments, but that's not really saying a lot. This movie, for the most part, fails at what it's trying to be. A fun blockbuster. I did not have much fun with this movie. There was a lot of moments where I just got really annoyed because of the characters and the decisions that they were making. And ultimately, this is probably the worst ending that I've seen probably since Independence Day Resurgence. Yeah. Let me just get into the negatives real quick. All these characters are terrible. Bryce Dallas Howard as Claire, I mean, she was fine in the first Jurassic World, but I just didn't like her in this one. Bryce Dallas Howard, you can see that she tries her best, but ultimately, I couldn't get behind the character, and I couldn't stand the character, really. But she is definitely not the worst character. We'll get into the worst character in a little bit. The military guy in this movie, it's not that I can't remember the names of the characters, because, they make, how forgettable they all are. And disposable they all are, really. But the military guy, he is sort of the secondary antagonist in this movie. You don't like him because he's a good bad guy. You don't like him because, he's just annoying, and you just want him to go away forever, never to be seen again. And he's just awful. His motives, you get none. And you really want it. There's no depth behind this character, and it's just annoying because he does these things, and it seems like they're gonna get you to hate him as much as possible because something that's so he can eventually get eaten by a dinosaur, possibly, but it just doesn't work, and the execution of this tactic in this character really ultimately fails. And I just couldn't stand him, and he was a good bad guy, but he wasn't a good one, and I didn't like him for the reasons that I should. Then, he is, again, not the worst. And then there was the comic relief character, which was the technician who screamed and complained about anything, and I didn't hear that much screaming since Josh Gad in Pixels, and that's saying a lot. I mean, man, I thought Josh Gad was bad. I mean, I like this better than Pixels, don't get me wrong, but man, I haven't seen that much screaming used for comedy since that movie. Oh, this guy, there's so many times I wanted to see him get eaten by a dinosaur, and I'm like, please, just have him get eaten by the dinosaur so I don't have to hear him scream anymore, and yeah, anyway, still not the worst character. There's also the main protagonist, who is the guy who wants the dinosaurs to ultimately sell them. Again, there's no context given to this other than money. And it's something we've seen, and it's just a motive that is seen and heard so many times that you can't care about this character. This character is someone I've seen a million times in movies, and he's just so generic and vanilla, and legitimately any bad guy could have been, and you could have taken most bad guys and replaced them with them, and you could have taken any actor and they could have played this and it would have been exactly the same. But there is the little girl. I got to apologize to these three characters. I got to apologize to the two kids from the first Jurassic World, and I got to apologize to the little girl from Jurassic Park, The Lost World. Those characters aren't good, but they are good compared to the little girl in this. She is awful. I couldn't stand her. I don't know why her story arc and her subplot just doesn't work ultimately, and I couldn't get behind it. And then she does something really stupid towards the end that sets up a third movie, and like I said, it's so bad. And I go, why would you do this? No, stop. And it was bad, and I couldn't stand her character. And like I said, most of the characters just aren't well written. The writing is just terrible, and it fails to be entertaining, which is a pretty important part. I feel like if I'm not invested or entertained, then what's the point? And I wasn't invested or entertained in this movie. I didn't like this movie at all. I'm not excited for a third one. I think they should have just left it alone from the first Jurassic Park. And I give this movie a D. This isn't a good movie. There are a couple saving graces, like I said, with Chris Pratt and Blue. But other than that, either the characters are forgettable or very annoying, and the writing is just pretty bland and bad. Everything is just so generic, and this is ultimately made to set up a third one, to make more money, and there is no passion behind this. There is no... everything is just so bland, and they just play it completely safe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please be on the lookout for my next review. I don't know what that is going to be, but please be on the lookout for it. Please comment, like, subscribe, do all that kind of fun stuff. Until next time, guys, have a nice day.